She was on the same variety show as her ex. The host asked, "Before you die, you can only leave one letter, what would you write?" I froze and wrote down 3 wishes on the letterhead. When it came to the presentation, I read them out slowly. "I wish for everyone to forget me dash." The words were interrupted by a snort. Oliver Thompson's face was frosty as he sarcastically said, "Big star goo, you're so self-absorbed, aren't you? Who's going to remember you? Who cares if you're dead or not?" I smiled good-naturedly and did not make a sound. He didn't know yet. This letter is my last suicide note left in the world. Halfway through the taping of the program, the crowd had already seen it all in the face of Oliver Thompson giving me a hard time. After he finished mocking on his side, the host immediately rounded off the show without changing his face. "Thank you, movie star is really humorous, ha ha ha." As the words left his mouth, the host turned his head to look at me again and softly said, "Henyushwang, please share the rest of the content with us." Upon hearing this, I smiled and continued to speak with a normal demeanor. The second wish is to find a new owner for Dun. The last one is to donate all the inheritance to welfare organizations. Guessing that the crowd would be puzzled, I was the first to explain, Dun is a civet cat that I raised. The other guests nodded in realization. However, to be more precise, Dun is the cat that Oliver Thompson and I raised together. It was raining heavily that day. Little Civet followed me closely. In a moment of weakness, I adopted him. Later, Oliver Thompson helped to take care of the cat when he was busy, due to his frequent shooting trips. He doesn't like small animals. When shoveling poop for Dun, he always pinches his nose while chanting. But when it comes to taking care of kittens, he is more attentive than anyone else. The man will do enough strategy to choose cat food, cat litter, will also buy the whole house of pet snacks and toys. It was only later that there was a falling out and Tun was left to me by Oliver Thompson. When I finished, not surprisingly, the man opened his mouth to choke me again. He sneered, unflinchingly, Amanda Green, writing in such detail, "You better be really dying." The first few guests, all of them were vague with ambiguous words. Compared to them, I did write more specifically. The atmosphere stood still for a moment. About not expecting Oliver Thompson to target me so obviously, for a moment, the hosts froze in place, not thinking of how to save the scene. Until David Lee, who was beside him, spoke up. "Thank you, movie star, in front of the camera, it's better to keep your manners." As he spoke, he naturally handed me a bottle of water. I was slow to take it. Not long ago, the TV series I co-starred with David Lee was aired. The whole internet went crazy about me and his CP. For the sake of heat, the company also let us find opportunities to have more contact. Therefore, in the face of David Lee's obvious favoritism, I naturally would not refuse. Oliver Thompson's eyes were fixed on my hand holding the mineral water. Just when I thought he would say something mean again, the man lowered his eyes and said meaningfully, "I'm thirsty." Stunned for a moment, I handed over the water in my hand. But he didn't drink it. Casually playing with it a few times, his hand shook and the mineral water was thrown into the trash can. Oliver Thompson looked provocatively at David Lee and spoke harshly, "Sorry, I don't drink this brand of mineral water." These behaviors can be said to carry out the trickery to the extreme. However, behind Oliver Thompson was the top-ranking Say family, and no one dared to open their mouths to comment. The host wiped the sweat from his forehead and carefully said, "Movie King Xia, is it convenient to show what you've written?" The man smiled, rarely easygoing. "Of course." Only, when the camera swept over the letter paper, the host's breath caught. Oliver Thompson's dragon's words quickly appeared on the big screen, and everyone froze. What he had written read, "Before you die, make sure you pull Amanda Green's back." The man hooked his lips and read it out with reckless abandon, his tone of voice wild to the extreme. The people in the room looked at me with pitying gazes. And my expression was bland, still showing little emotion. Oliver Thompson hates me, it's only human. After all, that time when we broke up, we did have quite an embarrassing row between him and me. Oliver Thompson is very possessive of me. And as I do theater all the time, it's impossible for me to avoid intimacy with rival actors altogether. The play with David Lee happened to have a kissing scene. When the man found out, he was almost furious. He asked me to announce my relationship on the spot. But at that time, David Lee and I were in the middle of a CP marketing campaign, which was not the best time to do so, no matter which way you look at it. So I told Oliver Thompson to at least wait until the TV series finished airing. His eyes went scarlet at the ends, he gave me a deep look, and turned his head away. I, on the other hand, was tripping over other things. When I was free and tried to contact him again, I realized that I had been blacked out of all contact information. Oliver Thompson refused to see me and disappeared for several days. Once again, I heard from him when he posted an Instagram. My girlfriend at Amanda Green. A few simple words that nearly paralyzed the server. But this was something I didn't know at the time. The day the man posted the Instagram, I fainted on the set. It was a day before I woke up again. The doctor looked at me with pity and said, "Ms. Amanda Green, I'm sorry, it's terminal cancer." A short sentence that froze me in my tracks for quite some time. However, there was no horse crying as expected. I wasn't given much time to react when a call came in from my iPhone. I realized then that the agent had nearly blown up my phone in the past 2 days. He didn't dare bother Oliver Thompson. He called me and asked me why I suddenly announced my relationship. He asked me to hurry up and deny it, and keep this matter under wraps for the time being. By the time the agent finished, half an hour had passed. Actually, I didn't hear what he said. Just numbly said, "I'm sorry," and "I know." Hanging up the phone, I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time again. Originally, at this time, I should have explained to Oliver Thompson. Explained that the play was made 2 years ago, before he returned home. Explained that I really loved him and hadn't crossed any lines with anyone else. Explained that I'm willing to tell everyone that I'm his girlfriend. But now, it seems like nothing matters anymore. How long can you live with terminal cancer? 6 months? A year? It's all too short. So, Oliver Thompson, I'm not going to hold you up any longer. I finally moved my fingers as the rays of the setting sun poured in through the window. Reaching for my bedside iPhone, I responded to that Instagram. This joke isn't funny, at Oliver Thompson. In just an hour, the Instagram reached millions of retweets. Many of my followers flocked to the bottom of Oliver Thompson's comment section to leave messages. Do you know that your behavior is called rumor mongering? Get out of the industry, strong brother. You're the one we can't stand. You're not the one who's going to get hit in the face when the car flips over. Disgusting. Mr. Xiao won't try to force someone to be with you, will he? In a flash, he became the object of shame on the entire internet. I don't know where the gossip is spreading, saying that Xia's family is ashamed of him and wants to cut ties with him. In the face of so much pressure, Oliver Thompson didn't say a word. I thought that he would at least publish the past photos and chat records to beg for innocence. But the man did nothing. Instead, he endured the barrage of abuse alone. Open the iPhone again, Oliver Thompson sent me a voice message. For the first time, the man's head was bowed. In a panicked tone, he asked, "Amanda Green, do you love me or not?" The tip of my nose ached and I closed my eyes, swallowing the bitterness in my throat. It took a moment before answering firmly. "No love." Oliver Thompson didn't reply me again. Proud as he is, naturally, he will not lower his voice to stay. At this point, we unannounced separation. Looking back, the host had gone through the session with a stiff upper lip. After a half-hour break, the second game of the day began. Truth or Dare. The showbiz world is very deep, and more or less everyone in the room has something they can't announce. As a result, none of the questions chosen to ask Truth or Dare were overdone. I was kind of relieved. However, when playing the game, Luna White was always targeting me if anything. I have some issues with her. Back in the day, we both grabbed the female lead for a movie at the same time, and she lost out. Probably since then, Luna White hated me. She would always like the posts that scolded me. Afterwards, she would explain without any sincerity, sorry, my hand slipped. I was too preoccupied with acting to take any of this into account. Oftentimes, she acted more like a clown. For example, now. I lost the game, and the woman said with malice, "Henya Shuang, choose truth or dare." Upon hearing this, I looked at her calmly and answered calmly. Truth or dare. As the words fell, the smugness in Luna White's eyes increased. She asked the question she had prepared for a long time. Have you talked to movie star Xia or not? Faced with yet another prick, the host directly chose to play dead and stopped talking. The gazes of the guests in the audience swept back and forth between Oliver Thompson and me. No one was unaware of this. Suffice it to say, it was a taboo that Oliver Thompson couldn't mention. And now, just like that, it was out in the open. Oliver Thompson did not move in anger. His burning eyes also fell on me, as if he wanted to see how I would answer. I lowered my eyebrows and was slow to speak. Luna White was about tired of waiting and sneered, "It's fine if you don't want to talk about it, then you'll be penalized with 10 glasses of wine." She was clearly trying to target me. Just then, I finally looked up, my nails embedded in my palms, and laughed softly in denial. Never talked about it. Everyone in the room sucked in a breath of air. Oliver Thompson's face grimaced, a chilling smile curling his lips, and he immediately chimed in, "Yeah. How could I possibly have a moment with someone like Amanda Green?" But the next moment, the man's knuckles exerted force, and the wine glass in his hand shattered with a sound. The glass shards dug into the flesh, stained red with blood. But he didn't even frown, as if he couldn't feel the pain. After a short period of silence, the people present reacted and called for a doctor in a panic. The day's activities ended hastily. Most of the guests went over to see Oliver Thompson's injuries. My body was in pain and I didn't have much energy, so I went to my room, took my medication, and fell asleep not long afterward. I was woken up by the staff at around 4 p.m. After rejoining the others, I learned that I needed to prepare my own dinner for the day. Oliver Thompson looked at me wistfully and said with a sneer in his voice, "I hear Amanda Green is a good cook." Sure enough, I'm the one who's not talking about me in 3 sentences. I subconsciously raised my eyes. My eyes landed on the man's bandaged right hand and sighed in relief. Still able to move around, it doesn't seem to be badly injured. Hearing him say that, the other guests looked over. Luna White was the first to give me a playful smile, "Then dinner is a pain in the ass." "Thank you. I'm a killer in the kitchen, so I won't go in and make a mess. There's a guitar outside, I'll go take a look." In just a minute, I was the only one left. I sighed helplessly and started to prepare dinner for a dozen people. Since there were so many people, there were a lot of dishes to prepare. When I was boiling the vegetables, I didn't pay attention and the pot caught fire. Fortunately, David Lee, who had arrived at an unknown time, was quick to put the lid on the pot. The man said gently, "I don't know how to cook, but I can still wash and cut vegetables. If you need anything, just ask me." My eyes welled up and I replied gratefully, "Thanks." With David Lee's help, it was much easier to cook. 2 hours later, the last dish was ready. Only, when I was serving the dish, I suddenly realized that Oliver Thompson was watching me from the backlight with a dark look in his eyes. I don't know when he arrived. I don't know how long he's been standing there. Perhaps because of my illness, I was so exhausted that I didn't want to say a word. So, staggering out of sight, I brushed past him. At the dinner table, Oliver Thompson started picking on me again. The man had picked up a chopstick of food, just put it in his mouth, and immediately spat it out again. His expression was like a smile, not a laugh, and he said meanly, "Amanda Green, is being a good cook also a persona you set up?" Facing Oliver Thompson, who was maliciously targeting me, for some reason, I was suddenly a bit tired. How could he not understand my cooking skills? Obviously, every time we were on vacation, he was the one who pestered me to eat my cooking. Which time, he didn't eat every last grain of rice. I looked up, looked seriously into Oliver Thompson's eyes, and suddenly smiled brightly. In the most sparse tone of voice, I said to him, "It's okay, no surprise, this should be the last time you eat my cooking." As the words fell from his lips, the harsh smile on the man's face froze at the corners of his mouth. Oliver Thompson was in a rare silence. I don't know what it was associated with, but this meal, he ate extraordinarily hard. Everyone did not see. The man's left hand, hidden under the tabletop, was trembling. I didn't eat a few bites, and my stomach suddenly flipped. Stopped moving and rushed to the bathroom to dry heave. Seeing the bright red blood in the sink, I panicked and turned on the faucet to rinse it off. When I came out, I met Oliver Thompson head-on. He looked at my pale face with complicated eyes and asked, "Are you sick?" With some thought of teasing him, I answered in a low voice, "Pregnant." At these words, the man's pupils shrunk so violently that he couldn't speak properly. Mine? I laughed softly, "Fooled you. Amanda Green." Ignoring Oliver Thompson's anger, I turn and walk away. Returning to my room and locking the door, the breath I was holding on to finally dissipated. I fell head over heels onto the bed. It was 10 minutes before I managed to get up and went to the bed to get my pills and take them. Swallowing the last pill, the iPhone rang with a message tone. It was from Mom. Frost, why did you transfer so much money to me? What happened? My eyes are sore and swollen. Burying half of my face in the pillow, I typed a reply, nothing. I'm going out of town to shoot a movie in a while, I'll be busy for a long time, Mom, take care of your health. The person on the other side of the screen was oblivious. The person on the other side of the screen is oblivious to the fact that he or she has no idea. I've sent you some nougat, it's coming, you've had low blood sugar since you were a kid, remember to put it in your pocket when you get it back. Mom droned on and on. I replied yes, to every single one of them. Back then, she didn't hesitate to take me away from my abusive father. Now it's hard to reorganize a happy family. I don't want to drag her down anymore. Since the diagnosis of cancer, my spirit is not what it used to be. My appetite, physical strength, and immunity have all dropped dramatically. Every day I live, I am suffering from the pain of the disease. But I can't afford to die. The people I love are still on Earth. My favorite plays are still to be shot. I still have a lot of things left to do. Since I needed to get up at 6 o'clock the next day, I went to bed early this night. At 6:30 the following day, the guests arrived and were led by the staff to see the sunrise. To be honest, I was quite looking forward to it. In the past, because I was busy with work, and then because I was sick, plans were always put on hold. Now, participating in this variety show has fulfilled my wish. The observation point set by the director's team was on a mountain, requiring a hike of more than half an hour. I gradually fell from the center of the group to the end of the group. Every step I took was like fighting against the passing of life. Nevertheless, when I looked up, I was still a long way behind the other guests. David Lee realized that I was not in good shape. He took one of my hands and said, I'll carry you. About afraid of my refusal, the man spoke again before me. Don't try to be brave, your face is as white as a ghost. As the words fell, David Lee easily carried me on his back. He even turned it upside down and asked with a frown, why are you so light? I lay on the man's shoulders, lies coming out of my mouth. Getting ready for the new movie. David Lee sighed good-naturedly. But as a co-worker, he was in no position to demand it of me. He only advised in a deep voice, Amanda Green, your body comes first. I let out a soft my eyes a little moist for no reason. Sick people are always more sentimental. Perhaps even I don't know that I really need someone to care about me, to ask me if I'm sick and if my body is hurting. But life is a lonely journey. David Lee walks a very steady step. It wasn't long before I was lying on his shoulder, sleeping peacefully. Once again awake, the face is a few points better. Then the sneer of Oliver Thompson was heard at my side. His face was dark, his eyes locked on David Lee and he sneered, Amanda Green, is softness a new persona for you to set up? Half an hour's walk and you still need someone to carry you up. At that, I patted David Lee's shoulder, signaling him to put me down. There aren't many steps left, I'll walk there myself. The man nodded. After putting me down, he quickly stepped forward and went to help the staff set up the venue. Oliver Thompson gave me a deep look and followed suit, wriggling away. I walked slowly at the end. Suddenly, I remembered that when I was sleeping, I heard Oliver Thompson's voice in a daze. I think he said the words, I'll carry her. Thinking of this, I smiled to myself and didn't think any further. When I arrived at the designated location, the other guests had already taken their seats. Only the folding chair next to Oliver Thompson was empty. When I got closer, I realized that there was a wool blanket placed on that chair. I vaguely remembered that it belonged to Oliver Thompson. My eyes fell on the man, but he was oblivious, concentrating on playing with his iPhone with his head down. Seeing this, I sighed helplessly, knowing that he's taking it personally again. Mornings in the mountains can be a little cooler, and I stood at the edge of my chair, hugging my arms tightly and shivering without reason. At this moment, Oliver Thompson finally raised his eyes to look at me. Speaking to me, he was always gloomy. You're going to stand and watch the sun shine on MTGU, big star? I sighed in relief, pointed to something on the outdoor folding chair, and reminded, your blanket is confiscated. As the words fell, Oliver Thompson immediately averted his face. From my angle, I could only see his cold, hard jaw. Then, the man was heard to speak expressionlessly. Cloak on. I froze for several seconds, before I realized that he was telling me to put on the wool blanket. I was born with a cold body. Every winter, my feet were as cold as ice, and I couldn't get them warm. At that time, the honorable young master of the Xia family would cover my feet in his arms with eyes full of heartache, allowing himself to be frozen to the point of baring his teeth and whimpering. I, on the other hand, watched him with amusement. Trying to pull out my own feet, I was surprised when he clutched them tighter. The man gritted his teeth and stiffened his mouth. I'm not cold. He's like a large hand warmer. Every night when I sleep, he wraps his arms around me from behind. On cold winter days, and even a couple of times, I woke up hot. I wrapped myself in Oliver Thompson's blanket and gazed out into the distant sky. Once again, I thought from the bottom of my heart, how nice it would have been if I hadn't gotten sick. Seeing me wrapped in the blanket, Oliver Thompson handed me another thermos. The man said arrogantly, I don't like hot drinks, so here you go. I reached out and took it in silence. Thoughts raced through my head, but subconsciously, I didn't dare to think deeply. Finally, burying my face in the blanket, feeling the only warmth that remained. 10 minutes later. The first rays of daylight hit the mountains in the distance. The mountains were colored a brilliant golden yellow. I watched in fascination. Couldn't help but think that the teenagers in my memories were just as dazzling. Actually, I knew Oliver Thompson before he left the country. I was in my second year of high school. My parents were divorced, and I followed my mother, transferring to a school in the south of the Yangtze River. Before that, I had been living in Guangdong. When I heard that it snows in the winter here, I was especially looking forward to it. Oliver Thompson was my classmate at that time. When he heard about my beautiful longing, he just smiled meaninglessly and did not make a sound. Later I realized. What was the meaning of his smile? It turns out that it doesn't snow every year in the south of the Yangtze River. Coincidentally, I just caught up with the year that does not snow. For this reason I was sad for a long time. Until one weekend, Oliver Thompson called me to the playground. What came into view was a large, snowy landscape. It turned out that he had gotten a snow machine brought in to produce flurries of snow. The teenager, wearing a blue and white school uniform, stood under the snow machine and let the snow shower all over his head. It was a rare sunny day in winter. My eyes were wide open, looking at the shocking scene in front of me, and I was slow to speak. It was only after a long time that I was moved to say, thank you. Oliver Thompson opened his arms, turned his back to the light, and uttered a very middle-of-the-road line. Amanda Green, it's not enough to snow for you, I'm going to winter for you forever and ever. At that moment, I seemed to have my eyes burned by the sun behind him. If there were no accidents, we'd be together by the end of the college entrance exam. But he was going abroad to finish his studies. And I got into a film school in China. Love and future prospects, we both unspokenly chose the latter. The day Oliver Thompson left, I went to see him off. However, we didn't say a word to each other. Until later, he returned to China and entered the entertainment industry as an actor. I even thought for a while that we were destined for each other. Unexpectedly, it was a one-time fate. As the last mountain was dyed golden, the sunrise that lasted for 20 minutes finally came to an end. The other guests were marveling at each other's natural wonders. I sat on a chair, wrapped in a blanket, hesitant to get up. Perhaps it was a lingering feeling of nostalgia for the past. Or maybe it was the little bit of warmth in front of me. Until the host spoke. After watching the sunrise, we have to say goodbye to one of our guests as well. As the words fell, those present looked at each other in disbelief. Seeing this, the host then unhurriedly explained. Because Hen Yushuang still has a job, she won't be able to accompany us for the rest of the journey. Actually, work is just an excuse. The real reason is that my body can't support the subsequent recording. The doctor urged me many times to rush to the hospital for treatment. Before going down the mountain, the host organized and took a group photo of us. The moment the picture was framed, Oliver Thompson is standing behind me and is looking down at me. After the taping, I drove to the hospital. The doctor said that I couldn't put it off any longer and that I had to get chemotherapy. I nodded and checked myself into the hospital. The first chemotherapy session was over quickly. Throughout the process, the pain was excruciating. It just felt like someone was prying the cracks in my bones with a knife. Accompanying the pain was a large fall of hair. I stared at the fallen green silk in my hand. I didn't feel much regret. I was just, inexplicably, a little sad. When I was choosing a wig for myself, I received a call from Robert Anderson, a well-known director. There was silence for a while before Director Zhang's tired voice rang out. Frost, you really don't want the female lead in Crossing Mountains and Rivers? How much effort did you put into this at the beginning? As long as you're willing to come back and continue acting, how about I double your pay? I sighed. Director Zhang was right. In the beginning, I auditioned for this role no less than 10 times. In order to better recreate the character, I even studied with a martial arts instructor for half a year. I carefully scrutinized every word of the script. Not surprisingly, this drama broadcast, I can even be among the first line. However, there are really too many accidents in life. I spoke in a bitter tone and said softly, Director Zhang, thank you for your love, but I really can't star in it. These words directly angered Robert Anderson. He said angrily, Amanda Green, my sincerity has been sufficient, think it over. If you miss out on this movie, you will miss out on the chance to become a star, and not only that, you will also have to pay a large sum of money for breach of contract. My eyes were a little hot. I knew that Director Zhang would not give up easily without giving a valid reason. So, I explained, Director Zhang, I have terminal cancer. I can't do martial arts scenes with my current physical condition. Robert Anderson retorted almost subconsciously. You're so young, what are you babbling about? You know, I want to play this role more than anyone else. There was an abrupt silence on the other end of the line. It was a while before there was a voice again, is it possible that the hospital misdiagnosed it? I smiled bitterly. All 3 hospitals had the same result. Director Zhang told me to recuperate and hung up. I knew that he was very busy. He's also busy searching for a new lead actress. My illness has really caused trouble for too many people. I'm sorry. During this time, I found a new owner for Tun Tun. It's my best friend Sophia Brown. I still couldn't let go of the idea of giving it to a stranger, so I had to bother her. At first, she came to see me almost every day. When she faced me, she smiled more brightly than anyone else, but when she turned her back, she secretly wiped her tears. I joked that she was disturbing me like that. About the fear of affecting my mood, Sophia Brown now comes once every 3 days. A week later, the recording of the variety show I participated in earlier ended. But at that time, I received a call from my manager. I couldn't figure out what it was about. After all, since receiving treatment, all the work on me had been pushed off. The termination of the contract was to be talked about in a matter of days. Thinking about it, I suddenly understood his intention for this call. But when I got through, the agent kept his mouth shut about it and said, Amanda Green, Oliver Thompson cannot find you, the phone calls to me, I cannot afford to offend him, you have time to call him back. After that, he immediately hung up the phone. Then used WeChat to send me a phone number. This agent of mine, with a number of breakout stars, has always been busy. I sighed. Still gave Oliver Thompson a call. It was answered in almost seconds on the other end. I was the first to speak, my voice soft and revealing exhaustion. You wanted to see me? After 2 seconds of silence, the man asked, busy right now? Not busy. After what seemed like a long time in the making, Oliver Thompson finally spoke again. He said, Amanda Green, I was wrong to announce our relationship without your permission. Forgive me, okay? I promise, it won't happen again. When the young master of the Xie family, who had always been unruly and untamed, said this, his voice even brought some begging. Instantly, the tears fell like crazy. I used my other hand to cover my mouth. I didn't dare to make a single choking sound. Until Oliver Thompson realized something was wrong. Frost, what's wrong? Why don't you say anything? I didn't answer and hung up the phone in a panic. Found the man's WeChat and pulled him off the blacklist. Then, using Oliver Thompson's most annoying tone, sent a message. Oliver Thompson, I remember you're not a stalker. When it's over, it's over. Please don't bother me anymore. In the upper left corner of the screen, it kept showing the other party is in the process of typing. I'm staring at the screen, prepared to deal with all kinds of situations. But after half an hour, Oliver Thompson didn't send any message. I finally lost all my strength and collapsed on the bed. During the time of the cure, it was rare for me to be free. Mom remarried some years ago and had a new child. Afraid of affecting her family, I deliberately reduced my contact with her. She lived a happy life. Now that I am seriously ill, contact is even less. Mom repeatedly took the initiative to care about me, but I deliberately perfunctory back. I'm such a bad and unfilial child. Even if I die, she should be less sad. Apart from that, I donate most of the money I earn to welfare organizations. I sincerely hope that the girls in the mountainous areas can receive adequate education. There is also a small portion of my fortune that I decided to give back to my fans who have supported me all the way. I will send out red packets from time to time on Instagram and in my fan group. Some keen fans would ask me what happened. I smiled and wished all my fans good luck. I thought that the days would stay this peaceful. Until death. But not long after, my name was on the hot seat again. Oliver Thompson broke out all kinds of photos and chats during my relationship with him. The accompanying text was only 8 words. Amanda Green is my girlfriend. Coincidentally, the variety show I recorded earlier was aired early. The video of me denying that I was in love with Oliver Thompson on the variety show went viral. The whole internet was trolling me. I never thought Amanda Green would be like that. It's so disgusting, just talk about it, why don't you admit it, causing movie director Xia to be scolded for so long. I told you that Amanda Green is a green tea whore, and there were people who scolded me in the beginning. Thank you, movie star, why didn't you break this bad woman down earlier? No one remembers that she has been in 2 relationships? When she was with Mr. C, Amanda Green was in a crossover with David Lee. Not only that, but I've lost a lot of fans. I've even lost a lot of fans. In the face of the ubiquitous abuse, I was even a bit relieved. The moment I denied my relationship with Oliver Thompson, I knew that this day would come sooner or later. Because this incident had such a big impact, the agent finally contacted me. On the same day, my agent came to talk to me about terminating my contract. He looked at me with pity in his eyes. I've been too busy lately, I've just been free. Sign this contract, then release a statement and recuperate. There were no unnecessary words. I flipped to the last page of the contract, and without even looking at it, I sharply signed my name. After all, what use is there for a dying man? After The Economist left, I opened my iPhone again. Instagram private messages, and received 99 plus questions and insults. There were those who told me to apologize and those who told me to back off. I didn't read much of it. Instead, released the first statement since this fiasco, and the last. I apologize to everyone for taking up public resources for so long. I can't argue with any of that, only apologize to everyone for what I did. In addition, due to uncontrollable factors, I have terminated my contract with Huaxing Entertainment Company, and from now on, I will end all commercial activities and withdraw from the entertainment industry. Thank you all for your support and companionship along the way. Instagram has been sent out and everyone is dumbfounded. Someone left a message. No, sis, you said you're backing out? All collapsed houses, why don't you quit the circle? You can't make any money if you stay. Ah? I always feel that this is not the case. A while ago, Frost do public welfare and give fans benefits. Is not something wrong, ah? Yes, I grabbed several hundred. Don't let anything happen to Frost. Upstairs, what's your thinking? A few $100 and you're bought off? Do you have any sense of humor? I didn't reply. Instead, I directly uninstalled Instagram. All the sounds of the outside world can't be heard anymore. I'm going to enjoy the last quiet time of my life. After another round of chemotherapy, my hair fell out to almost nothing. So, it was a no-brainer to simply shave off the rest of my hair with a pusher. It was a bit uncomfortable to be bareheaded. So I bought myself a fuzzy hat. Today the sun is good, I took a lightweight chair and wanted to go to the yard to sunbathe. But just as I reached the door, I saw a familiar figure. It was too late to think about why Oliver Thompson was here. I subconsciously reached out and pressed the brim of my hat. But how familiar he was with my figure. Even nearly skinny as a skeleton, the man recognized me instantly. He snatched my chair and blocked my way again. I haven't seen him for a while, but Oliver Thompson has also lost a lot of weight. The man had red blood under his eyes, and his whole aura was disheveled. Is it so embarrassing for you to announce our relationship? So embarrassed that you had to quit? No one knows. Oliver Thompson saw that Instagram. He was trembling. He was so scared. Afraid he'd never see me again. I didn't know what to say and moved in a panic, planning to leave. At this point, there was only one thought on my mind. Oliver Thompson mustn't find out about this secret. But life seems to be like that. You can't hide what you desperately want to hide. When the little nurse girl called loudly for me to go to chemotherapy, Oliver Thompson's entire body froze, and underneath his eyes, he couldn't hide his dismay. He froze in place and watched me leave. I was distracted throughout the chemotherapy. When I returned to the hospital room, I was not surprised to see Oliver Thompson sitting on the edge of the hospital bed. He had his eyes downcast and his fingers crossed, not knowing what he was thinking. When he saw me return, he just helped me lie back down on the bed in silence. I don't know how long it took. The man finally spoke. His voice was hoarse as hell. Saying those desperate words was because you knew you were sick and wanted to push me away, right? I tickled the corners of my miserable lips, looking up into his sad eyes. Then, answered softly, no. Oliver Thompson, why are you such a narcissist? I broke up with you because you were impulsive, and I was sick of it. It's just that I was sick at the time. The man stood beside the bed, looking at me steadily. He didn't say anything, nor did he make any movements. After a while, he finally left in silence. Only, not long after, Oliver Thompson came back. He brought me fruit and dinner. Not only that, but the man stayed at the hospital and couldn't be driven away. He was paranoid that I didn't mean everything I said. Also paranoid that I was still in love with him. I never said much about it. I just kept sneering at him with the meanest words. Just like on the variety show, Oliver Thompson used those words to judge whether I still love him or not. When my best friend came to visit me with her dunce, she happened to run into a scene of a man wiping my body. She covered her mouth and was just about to leave when I called out to her. Ex.You, how do you know, I missed undone. At those words, Xiao Xingyue walked in. Oliver Thompson consciously retreated to one side. After not seeing him for a few days, Tun Tun jumped to the side of my bed with a long leap. The little guy used his head to rub against my hand, and a nice purring sound kept coming out of his throat. Suddenly, the tip of my nose was sore. She couldn't bear to die. After staying with me for a couple hours, my girlfriend left with Tun Tun. Oliver Thompson took care of me eating and washing as usual. Even when I went to the toilet, I needed him to help me in. Looking at my emaciated and withered hands, I felt embarrassed for no reason. So, turning my head to the person beside me, I asked, Oliver Thompson, when the hell are you going to get lost? It's an eyesore, you know? Or are you willing to be my lapdog? But the man only said 3 words back to me. I love you. I was suddenly struck dumb. Since I've been sick, my sleep has become very light. Oliver Thompson's every move was clearly visible to me, including when he kissed me on the lips in the darkness of night. I never dared to open my eyes. Now I'm bone-thin and eccentric. When a man stands beside me, I still somehow feel a sense of inferiority. To be honest, I would prefer Oliver Thompson to look after me out of pity. Sophia Brown told me about the recent events when she visited me again. She said that Oliver Thompson had clarified things for me on the internet, explaining the reasons behind my denial of the affair. Speaking of which, Sophia Brown took her iPhone out and showed me the messages from the internet. I knew there must be something else behind my sister's behavior. A person who can spend a lot of money on charity work, how bad can it be? I hope my sister can successfully overcome her illness. After reading it, my best friend finally couldn't hold back her grip on my hand and advised. Oliver Thompson knows all about it. What's the point of you pushing him away like this now? This will only intensify the pain for both of you. At that, I covered my face with my hands, salty tears spilling from between my withered fingers, choking back a sob, but from the moment I got sick, I decided not to hold him back any longer. Oliver Thompson is still young and has many years to live, he doesn't owe me. I want him to walk the splendid and grand path in the future, not spend the rest of his life remembering a dead man. My best friend looked at me and sighed. Frosty, you underestimate his love for you. Shortly after Sophia Brown left, Oliver Thompson came in. He carried a basin of hot water and wiped my hands and feet. The man mentioned, as if by accident, Hanfeng, it's going to be New Year's Eve, can we watch the fireworks together then? I traced Oliver Thompson's eyebrows with my eyes. It was a long time before I whispered. Oliver Thompson, I don't want you to live forever in winter for me. That year, the teenager stood in the snowy sky and uttered those words. But I don't want to. It's so cold in the winter. A man like Oliver Thompson should burn, roll, and sizzle forever. Seemingly sensing the decadence in my words, the man lowered his eyes, not daring to look at me. He only said, Han Shuang, even if it's not for me, for Sophia Brown, for your mom, try to live, okay? I want to live too. The chemotherapy hurt so much. But I gritted my teeth and insisted over and over again. No one wanted to live more than me. But no one knows my health better than I do. The world isn't a materialistic place. Ideas don't change reality. That night, Oliver Thompson was called back by the Tsay family. I was the one who quietly contacted them. He'd already wasted a lot of time with me. Couldn't afford any more sunk costs. And I took the opportunity to move out of the hospital. Changed all my contacts. Inside the hospital room, I only left behind a letter. It was the same one I wrote when I was on Variety. Only, I added another line. On the letter paper, I wrote a row of large letters in a crooked manner. Praying that those I love and those who love me will always be healthy and happy. When I switched to the new hospital, I didn't tell anyone. Not even my bestie Sophia Brown. Instagram was back on my download. The insults that were there at the beginning have been replaced with support and encouragement. I carefully scrolled through each message. Sister, I know you won't see this message from me. But I still want to say, you are really great, I love every character you play, and I empathize with you. I love every role you play, and I empathize with you. I'm sure you'll be able to overcome your illness, and I'm looking forward to the day you return to the screen. You've helped so many girls in the mountains, you've done so many good deeds, you'll be fine. I have terminal cancer too, and after learning about you, I'm very touched. As a stranger, I can't judge too much. Maybe if you hide it from the one you love, it will be less painful. It's strange how people always have a premonition of the end of their lives. I paid for my funeral to be organized by strangers. This way, I will always be free from sadness. On New Year's Eve, as I listened to the fireworks outside my room, I suddenly felt more tired than ever. As my consciousness was about to dissipate, I chewed on the nougat my mom had sent me and felt a sense of relief. Slowly closing my eyes, I couldn't help but murmur into the void. Happy New Year. Oliver Thompson can't reach Amanda Green. She's moved out of the hospital and changed all her contacts. The only thing left. Only the handwritten letter from Variety. Amanda Green added a line wishing health and happiness to those she loved and who loved her. But how could Oliver Thompson be happy without her? The man panicked, poking around day and night for news of her. Until one day, Oliver Thompson saw the Instagram of one of Amanda Green's fellow cancer fans. It was a screenshot. Amanda Green encouraged the fan, "You're going to be okay." Instantly, Oliver Thompson's heart pumped. He panicked and sent her a private Instagram message. After a minute of deleting and rewording, he sent a sentence. "Frosty, I love you. Don't be cruel to me, let me stay with you, okay?" The message was like a stone sinking into the sea, never to be answered. Oliver Thompson realized later. Amanda Green had died the second before the message was sent. No one had heard from her. 6 months later, Oliver Thompson bought a tombstone with Sophia Brown. They visited regularly. As a result, they bumped into each other quite a few times. Seeing Oliver Thompson getting more and more disheveled, Sophia Brown couldn't bear it. She said to the man, "Before Frost goes, I have a message for you." Oliver Thompson felt like he had grabbed the last straw. What did she say? Sophia Brown paused and continued. She said she loved you and told you to get on with your life. After that day, the man was a different person. He cleaned himself up, took care of the company. He even took a plane to another city to visit Amanda Green's mother. Goo's mother knew Oliver Thompson. She was overjoyed to see him. Not only that, but her second husband and daughter also welcomed him. Her second wish is to find a new owner for Tun Tun, and her last wish is to donate her entire estate to a welfare organization. "Thank you now," Amanda Green's sister asked. "Why hasn't my sister come back?" She said last time she'd visit me when I was older. "I've grown up a lot, and I've saved a lot of money to buy her candy and pretty clothes, so why doesn't she come back to see me?" Oliver Thompson rubbed the little girl's head. Covering the sadness in his eyes, he coaxed, "Han Shuang is a big star, she is busy shooting a movie. When she's done, she'll come and see you." When he left, Oliver Thompson quietly left Goo's mother a sum of money. Just when everything was going in the right direction. Oliver Thompson was caught off guard and closed his eyes forever. Of course he knew Sophia Brown's words were fabricated. It's just that he had unfinished business. Now, all the burdens are lifted. Oliver Thompson is off to find the love of his life in his dreams.